Good morning, dear Cara, from a rainy and cold Germany morning.
Good morning. It's actually quite bright and clear here in Scotland this morning, which I am very relieved about given all the rain we've had over the past 6 months or so.
How are you doing? You're really busy, is what I heard.
I have been incredibly busy. It's been crazy. Yeah, our last podcast episode that we recorded, I haven't actually edited and put out yet. So we're recording another one because we have got a lot coming up ourselves. But yeah, I've been away walking a long distance trail, which has been fantastic, and various different things on. Development Day at the Scottish Storytelling Forum tomorrow, and just lots of bits and pieces, teaching and workshops. So, yeah, life is good. And you, my dear cat, how's life with you?
Yeah, lots going on as well. I finally finished my blog site, so there will be a place to find my goddess work, my goddess stories, my coaching, my music, all around the goddesses. So that's a great relief, and I found a name, and yeah, it's been an interesting week. And you can find the link in the show notes, of course.
Fantastic. Yeah, websites and newsletters are something that is on my to-do list for the next couple of weeks. So I'm glad that you've made so much progress on that, and I'm looking forward to the blog as well. And today we are going to be talking about, well, our exciting joint project that is just starting. And I am so thrilled and excited about this because it's a year-long journey into our inner fires, those feminine fires that keep the light in the world burning. And I am so excited to be starting this journey. The fact that we're taking inspiration from four amazing goddesses, the four stages of life from maid, mother, wild woman, and crone, all of whom have wisdom to offer us, and all of whom are layers of our own being. So I think it's going to be such a wonderful, rich journey. And the people that have signed up already, I'm so grateful to them. And hopefully we'll get a few more people joining us who are called to explore this wonderful process with us. This deep dive into stories, meditation, relaxation, and also setting intentions for how we can be the light in the world. So it's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm very excited as well. And it's so cool because it's our very first online course as well. We set up a site on Teachable, and so it's going to be a mix of live sessions on Zoom, and people will have course materials to peruse at their own pace and work through in whichever way they want. And yeah, this is the first thing of that kind that I've done, and that we're doing together. So I'm really keen to see how it all unfolds. And if you're interested, please get in touch to all the listeners out there. Yeah, just shoot us an email or check out one of the links in the show notes. We start on April 24th of the year 2024. So please make sure you join us before then. The early bird offer ends tomorrow, which is the 21st of April. And we hope that you can make it. We'll have a meeting every month, recording included. And I think, yeah, it's going to open up some very interesting realms that even Cara and I haven't explored before, because magic always happens when we set out to work together. So please do come along.
Yeah, I mean, I think the format is just so exciting. I'm really looking forward to the fact that we're going to be sharing these incredible stories of strong women who have taken on different situations at different stages in their lives and have really found something to inspire them or to take them forward. And the fact that we then get to discuss that and go into a deep dive with participants And each of us has things that spark our own interest from a story. One thing I love about storytelling is you can tell a story to 50 different people and there will be 50 different versions. And that in itself is a type of magic. So the fact that we're sharing these stories, every single person will get their own inner flame fired up by these stories in whatever way is required to nourish and nurture them. And I think that is such an exciting process to be part of. And the fact that we're going to hold that space for journaling, for reflection, for nature and earth connection and so on as well as part of this journey is just, yeah, it's everything that I've been hoping to do for a long time, and I really hope that people are inspired by it as well.
Yeah. And I love the fact that we've sort of centered it around the idea of fire because, as you know, Hestia, the goddess of the hearth, is very close to my heart. I'm so glad she's part of the course. There'll be a recorded video on her in the course materials. And I feel her presence very strongly as an influence in the creation process of this course. And I'm sure she'll be with us throughout the year. And this idea of the feminine fire, of this the different stages of it, the different sort of states it can be in, and the different ways that we can find to tend it, to nurture it, to use it. Yeah, all this is just, it's such a broad topic to explore with people, and to witness the different ways that this fire can show up and help, and also sometimes be in the way if there's too much of it or if it's not in control. And yeah, so looking forward to everything that's going to unfold with that. And we did actually have a tiny plan for this episode, which is unusual for us, but we thought, well, hey, why not? And we realized that we're not wanting to spoil any of the stories that we're using in the course. Please come along to check them out. But we have found a story that is very, very related, and that's dear to both our hearts. And I'm very glad that you, Cara, are going to tell it to us, because it's one of the first ones I ever learned as a storyteller. So I'm sure it's a tale that many, many listeners know, but not in your beautiful version, perhaps. So maybe you want to tell it.
Yeah, I mean, we discussed the idea of sharing another of the stories that we are going to be sharing as part of the course, and we felt that releasing them too soon or sharing them too soon was perhaps not the right way to go. And yeah, this is one of the first stories that I ever told on stage in front of a large audience. And it was one that actually came to me in a time when I was exploring different characters and ways we discuss the world. I mean, I've been involved in environmental education now for 30 years, over 30 years, which is terrifying because clearly I'm only 28. But one of the things that I have discovered is that language, particularly in English, and I know in other languages, is so gendered. And we talk about the environment. We either other it by calling it, so trees, it, they, whatever. So we dehumanize animals, the environment in whatever way. Or where we do talk about them, we say he in English, and it's very male-centered. And I had discovered while I've been telling stories that so many of our tales are male-centered. So it's always about, male characters, even when it doesn't fit. And that is always so interesting to me. And as an environmental educator, whenever we see frogs or different types of birds out, people will say, "Oh, look at that toad. Isn't he something?" And then I look at the toad and go, "Well, actually, it's a female." But it doesn't matter that it's a female because everything is just he. So I don't want to get into a discussion about gender at the moment, but this is one of these stories that the first time I heard it, the characters were male. And it just didn't sit right with me. I thought, this doesn't work because there is something here about different energies. And so this is the way that I tell this story. The fox ran. She ran and ran and ran and ran. She had been running all day long and she couldn't stop, even though her muscles were on fire and her lungs were screaming at her and she could no longer get a single breath. But if she slowed down even for a second, the hounds would be on her and they would tear her to pieces. And so she had to run. She had to run even though she could no longer feel her paws. And she ran. She ran through the coppice and tripped and fell down, tumbling down toward the stream where she landed splap on the mud. And she closed her eyes, waiting for those teeth to bite into her. But at that moment, the hounds had been called away. And they turned on the road above her, and she heard the laughter of the people as they retreated back home. And lying, panting in the mud, under the clear sky, she remembered that the hounds were going back to their stables, to a warm bed and food, and she was lying in the mud, miles from her den, under a clear sky that was darkening. And as the stars began to appear, she realised that it was going to be a cold, cold night. If she didn't get up soon and find shelter, she would not survive the evening. And so, painfully, she pushed herself to her feet, noticing her cut, bleeding paws and the tear down one side. Her muscles screamed at her, but she had to move. And so she took a step into the stream and cooled those aching paws and took a long, slow drink. And as she drank, she thought, what is she going to do? How is she going to survive this night? She needs shelter. She needs food. If the hounds were released tomorrow, well, they would catch her anyway, so she will need to find somewhere to hide. And she took a step out of the stream on the other side and painfully walked up the bank. It was too late in the year for berries. The flowers had not even yet set. There was nothing to be caught. I mean, the rabbits and the mice would laugh at her if she tried to chase them. What was she going to do? And at that moment, in the distance, a light winked on. People, she thought. Now, people are dangerous, but people throw away food. Can you imagine having enough food that you throw it away? Well, it was her luck anyway. If she was careful, she would be able to go and forage something there. And so she limped all the way across the field and up toward the house. And as she got closer, she saw it was quite a big house. And that was good news. Surely they would have a lot of food that they'd thrown away. And as she approached, she went round the back to a small enclosed courtyard where she hesitated at the edge, making sure that there was nobody around. And then, seeing the bins on the right of the door, she took a step forward. "Oi!" said a voice, and she froze. "Oi!" said the voice again. And she looked around, and there on the other side of the door, where she had not noticed it before, was a small wooden house. And in front of it stood a dog. Not the type of dogs that chased her, but a dog with a woolly-looking coat and a round face and a wagging tail and a kind of stupid-looking expression on its face. "Why?" said the dog again. "What are you then?" "Pardon," said the fox. "What are you?" said the dog. "Well, I'm a fox," said the fox. "Oh," said the dog. "I've never seen a fox before. Huh, what's it like being a fox?" "Pardon," said the fox. "Well, what's it like being a fox? I've never come across a fox. Go on, tell me, what's it like being a fox?" "What's it like being a fox?" said the fox. "I'll tell you what it's like being a fox. It is dreadful. It's the worst thing in the world. I live in a den miles away from here, scraped out of the side of a hill. And in the summer it is too hot, and in the winter it is too cold, and I never get enough sleep or enough rest. And every day I have to go out and hunt for my food. If I try to catch a rabbit, they usually get away and laugh at me. If I try to strip berries from the bushes, well, I get torn by the thorns. I never, ever have enough to eat. I am always, always hungry. And not only that, I'll tell you the worst bit about being a fox is that everywhere you go, you are chased. And on special days, they release the hounds and they chase them across the countryside. And if they catch me, they will tear me to pieces. That is what it's like being a fox. It is awful." "Oh," said the dog. "Well, that does sound awful. Oh, you poor thing. You should try being a dog." "Pardon?" said the fox. "Well, you should try being a dog. It's amazing." "Okay," said the fox, not quite sure where this was going. "Well, tell me, what's it like being a dog?" "Oh," said the dog, "it's the best. Like, seriously, it is the best thing ever. I have this little house all to myself, and there's rugs and blankets inside, and it's all cozy and warm and brilliant. And then in the mornings, my humans, well, they come out with a big bowl of food, and it's all crunchy and munchy and delicious, and oh, it's the best thing ever. Oh, and then we get to go for a walk. Oh my goodness, we get to go for a walk, and sometimes I get to chase a ball or a stick or something, and it's just fantastic. Oh, but I haven't told you the best bit. The best bit is after my meal in the evenings, which is just delicious, they'll open the door and they'll let me go inside and lay out in front of the fire, and it's all warm and toasty and wonderful. Like, seriously, being a dog is the best thing ever. You should be a dog. I mean, you've got the paws, you've got the tail, your ears are a bit pointy, but you'd get away with it. Huh, thought the fox. Being a dog did sound pretty good, and that house did look like there was enough room for two of them. Regular meals and warmth. Wouldn't that be wonderful? But then she realised that something was wrong. This dog seemed friendly and it was wagging its tail, but it hadn't come over to sniff her like all polite dogs would. And by the light of the moon, she noticed that there was something around its neck. Taking a step back in horror, the fox said, "Dog, what's that around your neck?" "Oh, this," said the dog. "This is my collar. It attaches to my chain. It stops me running off. Keeps me safe." "Oh, dog," said the fox. "Oh, you poor thing. I think I know what's going on here. Tell me, have you ever run through the meadow in the springtime when the flowers are in full bloom and chased the butterflies? Have you ever walked through the pine woods after the rain has fallen and the berries are sweet? Have you ever sat on the top of a hill while the sky sings to you in colours of purple, red and green?" "You what?" said the dog. "No," said the fox, shaking her head sadly. "Oh, dog, you poor thing. You poor, poor creature." And with that, she took a step forward and then ran toward the bin. She knocked the lid off of it and she took out some mashed potato, a lump of cheese and a bit of bone. And then she turned, and with one last sad look at the dog, she ran off into the night to taste freedom on the open road once more.
Ah. So, just as a taster for all those listeners out there, I'd like to invite you to close your eyes if it's safe to do so where you are. And just take a tiny moment and feel into what this story has awakened within you. Is there a special image that has stuck? Is there a feeling in your heart? Is there a sensation in your body that wasn't there before you heard the story? And if you like, you can ponder the question, what does freedom mean to you? Where do you find freedom? Is it in the tiny things, the everyday little situations where suddenly something opens up? Or is it in the big decisions, the great life-changing events? Or is freedom perhaps something that weaves in and out of life as you breathe in and breathe out? Yes. Thank you for that, Cara. It's such a beautiful version. I love it.
You're very welcome. I do love that story, and every time I tell it, it does get me to reflect on, well, yeah, what is that freedom to me? What is important in my life? Not just freedom, but everything. And sometimes it is the small things that we don't notice unless we're brought up to a moment where we have to take stock.
Yeah. And stop. It makes me think of you shared an experience you've recently had lying on a cliff in Spain, Portugal, sorry. Do you want to share that, perhaps?
Yeah, so over the last couple of weeks, I have been on a 250-kilometer journey on the Fisherman's Trail, the Rota Vincentina in the southwest of Portugal. And it has been an amazing experience. When we started this podcast a year ago, I was still quite ill. I was struggling to be upright for more than an hour or so at a time. I had been through, lots of issues. And I was on a path to recovery, and it was a very slow path. And this journey has been partly about knowing that I can put one foot in front of the other and make progress in whatever way that is. And I started this journey, and 3 days into the walk, I was just noticing how amazing the landscape was. Like every bay, every headland, the crashing of the waves that were coming across the wide Atlantic Ocean, just everything was so perfect, the flowers and so on. And it was toward the end of that third day's walking. And I had a moment of clarity when I realised that this was such a special moment that if I didn't pause and take it in, I would miss it. And I just sat down at the side of the path on a clear patch of sand overlooking the bay. And I just sat there taking it all in. And at one point, I even lay down on the sand and just let the earth hold me and just be totally present in that moment. I didn't worry about where I was going to sleep that night or what I was going to eat or how my feet were feeling or anything. And I just sat there. And as I was sitting there, groups of walkers occasionally walked past. And it was really curious to notice how people were walking. And we all do different things at different times, but some of the groups were not even looking at the view. They weren't stopping to take in the bay, they weren't looking at the flowers around them. There was a couple of guys walked past and they were talking about corporate investments. And I just thought, why are you here? I mean, why are any of us here? And we're all on different journeys. And I think that was really what I took away from that is in every situation, we are all experiencing it in different ways because of who we are at the time, the situation that we're in. And sometimes we need to give ourselves permission to just stop and to be. And I loved the fact that I'd just given myself that moment to just go, no, I'm stopping and I'm being here in this moment, in this incredible place, and being held by the rocks underneath me, by the sand cradling my body, by the sound of the birds that were circling overhead, and so on. And it was just a really intense moment of connection with the world. And those edge places between coast and land, between ourselves and the other. And the sky was so wide and blue and held everything. And in that moment, I felt truly alive.
Yes, and as people who are familiar with permaculture know, there's always, life happens at the edges, right? The ecoton, the edge zones. That's where, that's where so much is going on, where diversity is biggest and all that. So, yeah, and that's perhaps what we find when we go to the ocean. It's just one massive edge that we're lingering in when we walk or even bathe in the ocean. It's still sort of edge zone. Yes, and so the stopping, the taking stock, the pausing to feel into who we are at that precise moment in time. That certainly is something that we're going to explore in the course, Feminine Fires, through meditation, through breath work. So we'll be doing breath sessions to really unlock some of the power that lies dormant within the cells of the body, but also to release some of the things that keep us from noticing the moment. Yeah. And it's so interesting that the fox and dog story, as I said, it's one of the first ones I learned when studying with Daniel Allison, and I have a version of it and I love it. It's different from yours, but the dog never really, it never seems to really get credit for who the dog really is. And I now have a dog. I got her last year, and sometimes when I walk her, it's like, do I have a judgment, about what it is to be a dog and the comforts. And I've had interesting feedback on this story, and I worked with the story in a workshop setting once, and it was interesting to see how different people identified with different characters in the story. And we've sort of found aspects of each of the two lives that are precious and beautiful and valid. And that was a big lesson to me, because that's when I first noticed that I had something like a judgment towards the dog character and the, wanting to be safe, wanting to be secure. And we have that, all of us have that within us as well. And it looks different to different people. And that to me is the power of story and story exploration, story medicine, is to be able to sort of switch perspectives, to explore where are the sort of prejudices in our heads, in our hearts, who do we identify with and why, all these things. So Thank you for sharing that story. And it's so interesting to me, by the way. I think today is the first time that I found something that in German, in the German language, actually works a bit better than in English. I'm such a huge English fan. But that, we don't have as many it's, because we have, we have the articles, der, die, das. So a tree is he, the sun is she, like, yeah, and it has different complications to it, but that's something I'm finding interesting right now. I need to explore that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much to dive into about language and how we articulate our relationship with the environment. I know that many people will have come across David Abrams and his work before about the spell of the sensuous, but also his work with Emergence magazine, talking about the fact that our words and the way that we put into being our relationship and understanding of the world through language is so heavily cultured, but also can be such a source of connection. And I think for me, stories are the way that we do connect, but we have to be very critical and aware of how we use these stories and the words and the language that we use. And I think that's one thing that I love about our discussions is we actually talk about some of these things, and there is much more to discuss, and I'm looking forward to doing that as well as part of this course. And I just want to say, yeah, in that story, I am finding when I first started telling that story, I was in a place in my life where I was totally the fox. I was feeling battered and bruised and all the rest of it, but freedom for me was the most important thing. And I totally relate to that. And I struggled with the dog. Whereas now I'm going, do you know what? Those blankets, that rug, regular meals sounds great. So I think it is very much about where we are on our journey of life and actually the images, and the fact that when I have told that story before in workshop situations and we've had discussions around, well, what are the different aspects of the characters, people quite often do relate to the dog because we often have dogs as companions, as you do now and as I have in the past. And actually, yeah, seeing life through their eyes is great because that dog's having a brilliant time. I mean, that dog loves its life. And I think that is important, is that wherever we are, whatever we're doing, we find ways to really love who we are and love the lives that we're leading. And if we're not, then finding the ways to make sure that we can find those moments of love.
Wonderfully put. And I think that's part of our mission for the course as well. So once again, dear listeners, please make sure to check it out. Feminine Fires. Early bird ends on the 21st of April 2024. We start on the 24th, Thursday night. And we're looking forward to seeing you there and diving into the first story. And we'd love your comments. As always, it's really, really helpful to get your feedback and anything that you want to share with us, let us know in the comment section or shoot us an email. We're always happy to hear from you. And thank you so much for traveling with us. And I'm so proud that we've made it, 1 year of the podcast already. And God, time flies. I'm so looking forward to this summer as well. Cara and I are running a retreat for storytellers and musicians at the beautiful Cranach Centre on the banks of Loch Tay. I can't wait. It's going to be amazing. It's in June, so make sure you don't miss that. It's called Keepers. We'll drop the link in the show notes as well. And it's going to be a powerful weekend of being with Earth, being with the ground we're standing on, and connecting with the ancestors. There's magic at that place. There's a very, very deep, powerful energy there, and I can't wait to come to Scotland finally. Can't wait to hug my dear Cara. And also, yeah, to see you there at the retreat.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we're getting to work with experimental archaeologists as well, and that's one thing that I really love about working with the Crannog Centre is uncovering the types of stories that they would have shared around the fire back a couple of thousand years ago. So that is going to be such a special weekend. And yeah, if anybody wants more information about feminine fires, your goddess work, some of my workshops and storytelling events, then yeah, please do get in touch with both of us through emails and websites on the show notes. So thank you for joining us this week, this episode, and please join us at any future events and podcasts that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, and blessed be.